Welcome to Creative Conversations, a space where no topic is off limit and creativity isn't just expressed, it's explored. This is the conversation you didn't know you needed. And here we dive beneath the surface of mundane talk to get to the heart of the matter. We're your host, Garrick and Militia, and we're excited that you have joined us today. So pull up a seat and make yourself at home and be prepared to be challenged, inspired, and ignited to something real and refreshing. This is not just a podcast, it's a doorway to deeper thinking, honest stories, and fearless imagination. This is Creative Conversations. Let's get to it.
So I wasn't thinking about her. And then as time marched on, I remember going to work, um, and it's like, dang, how did I even get here? Because it was just like I was going through the motions. And if you remember some of, what's the guy name who made School Days?
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee. If you remember some of Spike Lee's movies, and the person, it just seemed like they would be in a crowded room, and you could hear the crowd in the background. That person just slowly,
Yeah, that shot, that
yeah, just like
motion shot.
that's how I felt. Honestly, not even for months, but for years. But really, then, and as time marched on, because this happened in November, so let's fast forward to May, that following year, 2017. We still at this same church, and the pastor's wife was preaching some Mother's Day something. It was Mother's Day weekend, and uh, she was preaching something that Saturday, which I felt was like, girl, um, people are probably taking their mothers out. Why would you do that? But this was our daughter's first Mother's Day without her child. Um, so that was more important. Okay. Um, so the next day we go to church. The pastor's wife is all up in my face like I owed her money. How come I wasn't in church? I wasn't supporting her and all this other stuff. I let her get all that out. Because honestly, as I sat there, I'm looking at her, just imagining all kind of stuff that I could do that I'm not gonna say on here because I don't want our video strike.
Yeah, because we are trying to monetize
Yeah.
it.
So we're gonna leave it there. So I just let her know. I said, you know what? I was at home for my daughter. I don't think that me not being there uh, messed up you delivering whatever you say God told you to say. You gonna? I mean, she didn't care that I was nonchalant and really didn't care. Which I think the next week, because we had already been in conversations, I just didn't deal with that part. We'd already been in conversations, which Garrett may fill in a little bit of this, of his experience of why we left the church. But we had already been in conversation because that's one thing. Um, Garrick and I talk about a lot of different stuff, and we could talk for hours and have some good, real good, deep conversations. I don't like surface ish. So we had been talking. We would talk even on the way to work because we would ride into work together. So we had been having some real good conversations about around this time about leaving the church. And it was some things that he had, some information that he had come upon before I did. And to his credit, he didn't try to like hurry up and rush. Oh, listen to this, Mel. This is what we need to do. He didn't do that. He would share the information with me, and I'd be like, okay. And the type of job I had, I was not on the phones at all. We didn't even have phones on our desk because um, they didn't want us distracted because I was paying bills. So I would listen to some of the videos that he would share with me and then found some myself
Mm-hmm.
that began to make me even question the Bible even more. So I said all that to say between that was like my awakening. It was like different things throughout the years was accumulating with my experiences, even going back to shortly after I got saved. Um, but it wasn't something that somebody did because that happens. That's the reality too. People will people can be hurt so bad they like, you know what? It wasn't that. It was what I was finding out about the scripture and the lack thereof and the truth and the common sense. Now, what this particular pastor, and it was more so, it was his wife, because I will not say he did it. Now, in the end, he tried to defend his wife's behavior, even though he knew she was wrong. He admitted that because he apologized. But then I understand, you want to keep a happy wife so you can have a happy life. Um, but he knew she was wrong with what she did. So in the end, he still tried to like kind of cover it. But I wasn't studying him because when I am done, I'm done, and I was done. So that was, and I that was a piece of it because I don't want to be too long. Um, but between that and my awakening with that, and just the different things that we had learned along the way, but especially what we learned when we were in Alabama. Yeah, I was like, yeah, and the different videos that Garrick would share with me, and the ones that I would find myself, and then I would go back and look at the scripture and begin to research things and look on the internet and compare.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, ho. And those are the conversations that me and Garrett would have. So, an overview or a summation, that's why I walked
Interesting journey, you know, of which most of that I was right
away. Yeah,
alongside
it
with
was
you
right there.
experiencing that. Uh, I would venture to say probably 95% of that, with the exception of the early things. Well, no, because you would share that with me,
Right,
because we had started dating at that time, and
right.
so probably, so I can maybe safely say 100% of all of that I was
Exactly.
right along with her on that in that endeavor. So for me, if I'm, kind of looking at, what was my journey and my personal story, my growing up in the church, how did it make me feel? of course, as a child, as Mel stated, that I was reared, born in the, if you want to call me a pew baby. That's all I knew. That's all I knew that I can recall from a knee high to a pup. That's all I knew. So as a child, there was the adulation and the excitement,
Mm-hmm.
particularly, you know, the music, because I love music. That I won't get it. I won't go down that road with about that because it's a whole nother conversation. But just the musical aspect, the um, the shouting, the dancing, the rejoicing, and so forth and so on. Seeing all of that, growing up, and all of that. Uh, yeah, there was that family camaraderie
Mm-hmm.
because I was born in Lansing, Michigan, so you know the church I attended then, Christ Temple, back in the '70s. That it was a smaller church, so you know it was more, if you want to say, more family oriented in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. We weren't probably 200, if that, 150, give or take. I could be estimating that incorrectly, but you get the idea. It was a smaller congregation, and so for me, that that was all I knew. That was all I knew growing up, and never thinking about or taking into consideration the the trauma as a
Mm-hmm.
child that you are introduced to, but
Right.
it
Right.
doesn't translate to you as that,
Right.
because you're told that it's conviction, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a state of maybe guilt or shame that you're feeling. And I just kind of wondered, at age 7 or 8, what I mean, what guilt and shame
Right.
am I laden with at that age? But be that as it may, it was the case nonetheless. So as Mel touched on a few things that you experience, you're indoctrinated at an age, and again, these terms, you don't know that that's what's happening to you
Right.
as a child,
Right.
because it's so interwoven to your family, and you're not even making the association with that experience tying into that. I'm going because of my family.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of buffers what you would think you would understand or know, or feel otherwise about what's happening on those levels that will later impact you as you get older, and as you start to encounter the real world. And so for me, it was kind of a mixture of, because you grew up, you had your friends in church, and you know, yeah, and then I was baptized at, I think, 6 or 7, might have been 7 or 8, shortly before we left. I know I was baptized, and actually was just I was sharing this with Mel earlier. My pastor then, him and his wife, my mom, occasionally she would make dinner for the pastor and his wife, and they would come over, and we would have good dinner. And as a kid, I'm excited as a pastor and his wife. As a child, I was, you know boy, you just you're excited about your leader, you know being in your home and
Mm-hmm.
partaking of delicious meal with my mom. So that plug out there, she was jamming even then, uh, in the kitchen. And so having that. And I was sharing with Mel earlier, I can remember um, the first lady, her name was Sister Warren, um, Pastor Elder Warren. So the Warrens, they were our pastor and first lady, and she would read to me the children's Bible book
Mm-hmm.
that I had as a kid, and again, not even understanding that even the imagery was indoctrinating me,
Yep.
because every image in the book was characters that were white,
Mm-hmm.
and and so you're not associating the story or the stories with the imagery that is shaping
Yep.
your concept of who and what you think God looks like.
Yep.
So so there was an amalgamation of emotions and things that a person is, um my age, that I was experiencing. And then when we eventually moved to Chicago, or to Illinois, more specifically, we moved to Harvey, it was a suburb of Chicago, and went to church in Chicago. Uh, it was called Morgan Park before they changed the name, and further that kind of same experience again, connecting with friends, meeting people your age, and so forth and so on. They had one of the best, in my opinion, they had one of the best bands or groups, musicians, who that played the organ. It was Jerome, it was Daniel, and then David Foster on the drums. You
Mm-hmm.
had Maurice Benz playing the bass. You had, I think even Kermit then was playing we played the keyboard. We had a trumpet
Section.
section where it was Michael Smith. Then you had Daryl, who played the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had flutes too. Rosalind, I can't remember the other sister's name. They played the flutes.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a full band, all out band section for church on Sunday morning. So they were rocking. So that experience, so you're getting, this experience, and the family atmosphere and everything. So that part of it is is the is the part that you're connecting with outside of the indoctrination,
Mm-hmm.
because again, it's almost like uh you're being it's almost like a setup to, and all of that helps to kind of buffer, and you look forward to going and seeing your friends, hearing the choir sing, seeing the musicians play. If the Saints broke out into a shout or whatever the case may be, you enjoyed seeing that. And and then but then when it came down time to the invitation or the altar call, so forth and so on, now the somber music comes in, and the play upon,
The
now
emotions.
emotions, and now to be told, this is the reason why you have to do this, is because you are sinful, you
Mm-hmm.
are a wretch undone.
You're gonna be
um
separated from
and
God
if you
for
don't,
all eternity.
don't get caught with your works undone.
Mm-hmm.
you know and think about all of that is coming to a child.
Right.
I know better now, and that's some of the trauma that, when a person is deconstructing, though, that's a part of taking a piece, is because now your esteem is so beaten down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you I mean, you damn sure bet not have any form of esteem for something or whatever, because
Mm-hmm.
now it's going to be looked at as pride, and
Yep.
and God hates pride, and then you'll become an enemy. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
the indoctrination is so damaging
It is.
to to you as a child. So I did not have that aspect of where there was an alternative, or I was coming from another religious ideology and concept, where you had to kind of battle. That was all that was set in front of me. So
Mm-hmm.
I had no other choice to but select this God. That was
That was it.
that was it. And boy, I'm fighting not to go down this road with this conversation.
Mm-mm.
But I'm
Gotta
so
do it on-
gonna
you
stay.
gotta you gotta do it on the next
I got
episode, bro.
to.
On the
I'm
next
trying so hard to not fight to go down that road
you gotta save it.
because it's just so much that these things that influence with what you come to learn later on and down the
Right.
road
Right.
that helps you in your process of deconstruction because then you come to understand that a lot of that was bedrocked into you doesn't carry the weight that like stuff that is written on this piece of paper, and you have to go through that process to undo all of that.
Yep.
And I'll be the first to tell you, and I'm sure Mel can agree to this as well. It wasn't a one and done. So for me, it wasn't more or less what I started to experience, because then I went through that period of, as you get to become a teenager, you kind of rebel away. You don't, and it wasn't that I could not go to church, because I still had to go to church even in my teenage years. But I was made to feel real bad
When you did.
when I didn't, if I stayed home, because I was like, I don't feel like going. I don't feel like getting up, getting dressed. I don't feel like doing none of that. And you were made to feel real bad if you did. And um, so I didn't have that aspect of where, that I experienced some form of church hurt or someone did me wrong. As I got older, and we'll get into this up the road too in this series, our induction into ministry, how far along we went through that, and the process of, becoming ministers, ordained elders, and all of that, and eventually pastors.
Yada, yada,
We won't
yada.
we won't dive off into those waters in this episode. But so that wasn't my experience in terms of that someone, said something wrong to me, said something out the way, or made me feel a certain way. Because as Mel stated, earlier in the show, that you had to develop a thick skin being in church. You did, because certain people you were going to come across and that you were going to engage with, if you didn't develop a thick skin, would run you up out of there.
You gonna be steamrolled.
And yeah, with the things that get said about you, the things that you like, you can't understand that someone would even, you would hear that secondhand, first off, secondhand, and then who said it? Because most times it's people that you were supposedly close with, who you come to find out were saying those types of things. And so it wasn't that for me, because it's like, okay, it is what it is. And you develop a toughness about yourself and a resolve in in those moments, that would help kind of shape. But for me, it fell upon the academic and information side. And I'm kind of, I'm broad jumping, number of years, but coming to around 20, well, when we were in Alabama, I'm sorry. uh when it was during that, and some of the things that we experienced there, probably the first introduction for me started to come into view as I started thinking about the tithing and the money aspect.
You remember we challenged that before we left.
Yeah, and it was there, some things that were just inequities that it wasn't making sense, and it wasn't adding up. So that, unbeknownst to me at that time, wasn't um, more or less was not the catalyst, but I think it was the spark
Right.
that was like,
That's
wait a
true.
minute, you know, I
Mhm.
just had some questions about this because based upon how things were taught, and I'll leave it at that in terms of not to go in further detail because that'll be something that I'll further speak on in this
Serious.
episode in
Mhm.
this series. For me, where that kind of spark started when it came to that, because of just some of those inequities that I was like, wait a minute, this is not this is not measuring or adding up. And I wouldn't let anyone, even to this day, you know, dismiss that, oh well, well, you were losing faith. Uh-uh. No, absolutely not. Hell to the no. That was not the case. As much as we had invested,
Mhm.
I cannot begin to tell you. I don't know if we may we may discuss that up the road, or even or
Yeah.
touch on that or share that. So, but it was some of those inequities that I just it just wasn't registering and
Mm-mm.
didn't make sense to me
Mm-mm.
anymore. And I was like, wait a minute,
Mm-mm.
this is this in this area here. This is gonna stop. Stop doing this.
Yep.
I'm not doing that anymore.
Yep.
Done with it. You can yeah. I'm just gonna say something I probably shouldn't say, but I was done with that. I'm done with that. You not no, we ain't doing that no more. And so as that began to unravel, and I'm skipping it because if I say if I say what should be connected to those statements, it's going to lead me down another avenue of a conversation, because there were some pivotal things that happened
Mm-hmm.
upon that,
Mm-hmm.
which when we left Alabama and moved back here to Arizona, um, there were some things that were key to that transitioning
Mm-hmm.
happening, or that transition happening, and where it helped me to realize that um, you can't allow other people to take advantage
Mm-hmm.
and in some aspects manipulate you
Mm-hmm.
into doing certain things that you ordinarily would not do.
Right.
And but upon us getting back here, and as Mel touched on, yeah, we connected with a couple, and um eventually we had started to attend their ministry and so forth and so on. And but it was still some things that, as I kept reading, now it wasn't just the tithing. It was starting to get into other aspects of things that I was reading just in the text itself that I questioned. That I was like, wait a minute, um, I got a question about this. And the unfortunate thing was that, you know, I didn't have anyone that I could actually talk
Mm-mm.
to help me answer some of these questions that I had.
No, but see, you leaving out the part, and I know we got to wind this up because this video that went longer than we intended it to
Right, didn't
go.
belong and intended to go.
But you'd had a conversation with somebody that was once in the church. Not gonna call his name.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, 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 yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. See, that's why. Okay, thank you for jogging my memory.
yeah,
So what when we came back,
shortly after we got back,
shortly after we got back,
and he
uh
found out that we were back.
yeah, so I inadvertently missed out a key component of a person when we first moved to Arizona the first time, and we left for a few years. Like I said, we unfortunately went to Alabama. We met a couple and their family who had a ministry out here. We had
Mm-hmm.
started a ministry, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, that's a whole nother conversation. But it's kind of interwoven to our experience of what we're talking about in this process of us deconstructing. We met them, nice couple, and what have you. And so when we left, thank you for joining us on this journey of creation. reflection, and discovery. As we close today's conversation, it is our hope that you carry the light of inspiration and the spirit of creativity with you, wherever your path leads. Until next time, stay connected and aligned with your purpose, and keep creating. This has been Creative Conversations.